And away we go, episode 1200 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Monday, November 17th, 2025, and on this episode 1200, Operation Lose Out 2.0 has begun. The mission has started. The operation has been launched. Operation Lose Out. O-L-O. OLO. You've heard of YOLO. You only live once. Well, this is OLO. Operation Lose Out 1.0 was a successful mission that we conducted on this podcast during the Washington Commanders' 2023 season, resulting in them getting the number 2 overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, which was perceived to be loaded at quarterback. And the Commanders, with that number 2 overall pick, as you may have heard, took Jaden Daniels. There were people who were mad at me for doing Operation Lose Out. I got lectured to for doing Operation Lose Out, but I was 100% right in doing Operation Lose Out. And now, here we are again with this time, Operation Lose Out 2.0. This was never supposed to happen. This was never what I wanted. But this is where we are, and this is thanks to the Commanders in the NFL's 2025 regular season falling to 3-8 with a 16-13 overtime loss to the Miami Dolphins in Madrid, Spain on Sunday in the first ever NFL regular season game in Spain. And by the way, how great is where this game was played? Bernabeu Stadium, the home of Real Madrid CF. Here's how high level this stadium is. Its field is known for being stored in an underground greenhouse with automated mowers, irrigation, and LED lighting. That is high level. But yes, Operation Lose Out, rooting for the Commanders in a lost season to lose out in order to maximize draft positioning. I said that I would launch Operation Lose Out 2.0 once the team got to 8 losses. Well, the team has gotten to 8 losses. The Commanders now have lost 6 consecutive games, have gone from 3-2 to 3-8. Yeah, our team at one point was 3-2. It's hard to remember that, but yes, that in fact was the case. Understand the purpose of Operation Lose Out. It is rooting for what is best for our team. I always have been and always will be a fan of the Washington Redskins / Washington football team / Washington Commanders, and thus I will always want what is best for our team. But sometimes what is best is not immediate gratification. Sometimes what is best is not empty, meaningless, sugar high providing wins in a lost season. No, sometimes what is best is, shall we say, a carefully constructed loss, or 2, or more. Now listen, Operation Lose Out does not mean I don't want Commanders players playing well. I do want Commanders players playing well, especially younger players. I certainly don't want any more injuries for the team. I just would prefer that the team lose out, because the team has a real shot at not just a top 10 pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, but a top 5 pick in the 2026 NFL Draft. And there is so much good that could be done by our team with such a pick. Hello and welcome to this Monday installment of the Al Galdi podcast. Coming up on the show, in-depth reaction to and analysis of the Commanders' loss to the Dolphins in Spain. Next segment, further discussion of Operation Lose Out, including how this game epitomizes why we have arrived at Operation Lose Out. Also, I'll give you a breakdown of the performance of quarterback Marcus Mariota. The following segment, conversation about a variety of other aspects of the game, including quality outings by the defense, running back Chris Rodriguez Jr. and receiver Deebo Samuel Sr. There was plenty of good for the Commanders in this game, but in the end, they did just enough to lose. They found a way to lose. They stepped up, or should I say, stepped down and found a way to lose. Also on the show, I'll talk college football, Washington Capitals, Washington Wizards, and college basketball. I have a supersized college football segment during which I'll react to the stunning news on Sunday afternoon. Maryland is retaining head coach Mike Locksley. Where the heck did that come from? And I'll react to reports that Virginia Tech is targeting former Penn State head coach James Franklin as head coach. And I'll get into big wins for Navy, number 19 Virginia, and James Madison, and losses for Maryland, Virginia Tech, and Liberty. The Caps, they on Saturday night suffered a 3-2 shootout loss to the New Jersey Devils at Capital One Arena. Our rebuilding and tanking Wizards, they on Sunday evening got blown out by the Brooklyn Nets, 129-106 at Capital One Arena, in a battle of two of the worst teams in the NBA. The Wizards lost their 11th consecutive game, a 23-point home loss to one of the worst teams in the NBA. That is a tanking masterclass. And we in college basketball over the weekend had terrific non-conference wins for Maryland, Georgetown, Virginia, and Virginia Tech, although the Terrapins in their win did suffer a brutal-looking injury. Before we get to feedback, so we have the introductory press conference for the Washington Nationals' new manager, Blake Butera, on Monday afternoon at 1:30, and we have news on the man who served as the Nats' interim manager during the 2025 season, Miguel Cairo. Reports on Friday afternoon that the Baltimore Orioles are hiring Cairo as their infield coach. So Miguel Cairo is going to the O's. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me, the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Lots of feedback on the Commanders off their loss to the Dolphins in Spain and off my launching of Operation Lose Out 2.0 from Mike on X. Writes Mike, I wasn't committed to the tank yet. I was going to let the result decide, but Operation Lose Out in effect. Thank you for that, Mike. Yes, Operation Lose Out OLO now is in effect. From D Darkness 571 on X writes, D Darkness, commence Operation Lose Out. Thank you for that, D Darkness. From Steve on X writes, Steve, I see Operation Lose Out has begun. Good call, Al. I'm on board. Thank you for that, Steve. Welcome aboard. From Navy B Young on X writes, Navy, Operation Lose Out commencing. Thank you for that, Navy. Indeed. From Chuck on X writes, Chuck, exactly. I don't understand why some people have a hard time understanding this. A top 5 draft pick when the franchise QB is on the roster is gold. AP would be able to get back the second/third rounder and then some, or if the team thinks a game-changing receiver or edge is available, then you just draft the guy with the pick. We have also learned that DQ is a much better play caller. He had the defense in good positions in this game. There is just an issue with quality. This also demonstrated why Mariota is not a franchise quarterback. Retaining him in free agency will be much easier because he is the perfect backup to Jaden. This was a win-win and a best possible scenario. Thank you for that, Chuck. From Marcus on X writes, Marcus, from NFC Championship to the top of the draft in one season. A feat so difficult only Adam Peters and Dan Quinn could accomplish this. Thank you for that, Marcus. From Phil on X writes, Phil, I hear you, Galdi, but I'm sick of this kind of thinking. Winning that game, getting JD and Terry back with a chance to go on a run is much more enjoyable. Thank you for that, Phil. I get where you're coming from. I do. But the chance for such a run is gone. And that's the point. I waited until a chance for such a run was gone to launch Operation Lose Out. 10 wins is no longer possible. And even 10 wins would not have guaranteed the Commanders getting into the playoffs, not this season in this NFC, especially considering that the Commanders are 1-6 against NFC teams in this regular season. The scenario that Phil wants, heck, that I wanted, is gone. There is no run to be had at this point. The scenario is gone. That possibility is gone. Daddy left to go buy milk, and he's not coming back, okay? Daddy's gone. A great supporter of this podcast, Dr. George Verghese. He is one of the nation's premier dermatologists, and operating under his direction is the Mid-Atlantic Skin Surgery Institute of Maryland, which has locations in Waldorf, Maryland, Leonardtown, Maryland, and Lexington Park, Maryland. The Mid-Atlantic Skin Surgery Institute of Maryland focuses on medical skin care, cosmetic procedures, and skin cancer diagnosis and comprehensive care. Call 301-396-3401 or visit midatlanticskin.com and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. Dr. Verghese and the Institute can help you or someone who you care about with any of a number of dermatological needs. If you're dealing with allergic reactions, if you're dealing with acne, psoriasis, or eczema, If you're interested in procedures like Botox, laser hair removal, chemical peels, or smart lipo, which is the latest in body sculpting technology, call 301-396-3401 or visit midatlanticskin.com and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. Also, Dr. Verghese and the Institute offer free skin cancer screenings to anyone considered a new patient, and Dr. Verghese and the Institute offer advanced treatments for skin cancer, including painless and scarless skin cancer treatment. Call 301-396-3401 or visit midatlanticskin.com and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. For excellent and comprehensive skin care, contact Dr. George Verghese and the Mid-Atlantic Skin Surgery Institute of Maryland and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. So I have to tell you, launching Operation Loseout 2.0 has brought me a freedom as a Washington Commanders fan. You see, so much of this season has been us as fans fighting and scratching and clawing for the team to win, swimming against this massive tide made up of all of these things going wrong for the team. I suffered through and agonized over each of the Commanders' first 7 losses in the NFL's 2025 regular season. I did not suffer through or agonize over this 16-13 overtime loss to the Miami Dolphins in Madrid, Spain on Sunday to fall to 3-8. I was fine with the Commanders winning or losing the game, because I have come to accept what the Commanders' 2025 season is: a lost season due to horrendous injury luck, a difficult schedule, a defense that is really bad, and an overall roster that is not as good as we thought/hoped. This just is not the Commanders' season. I hate that that's the case. I am in no way happy that this is the case, but this is the case, and I'm not fighting against that reality anymore. Not when there is some actual good that can come from the Commanders' season going so wrong. Understand, this was a clutch loss for the Commanders. They and the Dolphins each came into this game 3-7. The Commanders through Week 10 held the number 8 overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft. The Dolphins, the number 7 overall pick. Well, the Commanders, via this loss, have leapfrogged the Dolphins in draft order. The Commanders now have the number 7 overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, and they still have 6 games left in this regular season. Yes, my friends, we still have a ways to go in this Commanders season. The Commanders having a top 5 pick in the 2026 NFL Draft is a very real possibility. There is a lot more losing that could be happening here with the Commanders at 3-8. And the amount of good that could be done with a top 5 pick cannot be overstated, especially considering that the Commanders could trade that pick to a quarterback-needy team for a haul to replenish the Commanders' diminished draft capital. It is time for us as Commanders fans to stop fighting against this wretched season and instead put the wretched season to work for us. Operation Loseout 2.0, let's get a top 5 pick in the 2026 NFL Draft. Now, I know that a lot of you are mad, if not furious, at General Manager Adam Peters and head coach Dan Quinn. I get the anger, I do, but this team is a shell of what the team is supposed to be. Your list of notable Commanders players who were inactive for this game due to injury: quarterback Jaden Daniels, receivers Terry McLaurin and Treylon Burks, tight end Ben Sinnott, and linebacker Ale Cajo. Your list of notable Commanders players on the reserve/injured list: receivers Noah Brown and Luke McCaffrey, running back Austin Eckler, edge defenders Dorrance Armstrong, Dietrich Wise Jr., and Javonte Jean-Baptiste, cornerbacks Marshawn Lattimore and Trey Amos, and safety Will Harris, and interior defensive lineman Daron Payne for this game was serving a 1-game suspension without pay from the NFL. Say whatever you want about Adam Peters and Dan Quinn, but answer this question honestly. How many NFL teams could/would overcome all of the absences that I just took you through? Like when we talk about the strength of the roster, the depth that the Commanders possess, how many other teams would have the roster quality, would have the depth to overcome the amount of injuries/absences that the Commanders were dealing with for this game on Sunday? And then you add to that this Murphy's Law of seemingly everything that can go wrong for the Commanders going wrong for the team this season. And this just is not the Commanders' season. Does anything scream 2025 Commanders more than this? On a 4th and 19 for the Dolphins at their 13 with 4:21 left in the fourth quarter, cornerback Mikey Sainristil had a lost fumble on a muffed catch of a punt on the first regular season punt return opportunity of his NFL career. Why was he the team's punt returner in that spot? Well, the Commanders' primary punt returner, Jalen Lane, who has been really good on punt returns this season, right? He was dealing with a hip injury. Yes, another injury. That entire scenario right there. Jalen Lane being hurt, coupled with Mikey Sainristil having a lost fumble on a muff catch of a punt on the first regular season punt return opportunity of his NFL career. All of that screams 2025 Commanders. Just everything not going the team's way. How about the situation at kicker? Kicker Matt Gay, he went just 2 for 4 on field goals, went 1 for 1 on extra points. He connected on a 26-yard field goal with 2:36 left in the first quarter and connected on a 30-yard field goal as time expired in the second quarter. He made the 2 chip shots, but he missed 2 50-plus yard field goal attempts on a 4th and 16 for the Commanders at the Dolphins 33 with 7:35 left in the second quarter. Gay was wide right on a 51-yard field goal attempt, and on a 4th and 8 for the Commanders at the Dolphins 38, and the game tied at 13 with 15 seconds left in the fourth quarter. Gay was wide right on a 56-yard field goal attempt. Matt Gay for this regular season now is just 13 for 19 on field goals, is 22 for 22 on extra points. He is perfect on extra points, but he is 5 for 5 on field goal attempts between 40 and 49 yards, but is just 4 for 9 on field goal attempts of at least 50 yards. In an NFL in which 50 is the new 40 for kickers, this guy is less than 50% on field goal attempts of at least 50 yards. The Commanders this past April 29th announced having signed Matt Gay as an unrestricted free agent. The contract reportedly is a 1-year deal with more than $4.25 million fully guaranteed. The most fully guaranteed money for a kicker on a 1-year deal in NFL history. Well, he is a mere 4 for 9 on field goal attempts of at least 50 yards. How about the slip by tight end Zach Ertz? On a 4th and goal for the Commanders at the 1 with 6:06 left in the fourth quarter, Zach Ertz slipped, resulting in a shotgun incompletion by quarterback Marcus Mariota on a pass intended for Ertz. A brutal slip by Ertz. By the way, Zach Ertz, he had 4 receptions for 42 yards on 8 targets. He had that crucial slip, and he committed a 5-yard false start penalty. Way too many screw-ups by Ertz this season in terms of penalties, drops, and now slipping. How about what went on with the Commanders starting quarterback in this loss to the Dolphins in Spain? Marcus Mariota. He was the Commanders starting quarterback for the 5th time in 11 games in this regular season. He played well. He made one major mistake, but that one major mistake was a killer. 1st and 10 for the Commanders at their 35 on the very first offensive snap of overtime. Mariota on a shotgun play-action pass was late on a throw to Zach Ertz and was intercepted by cornerback Jack Jones on a play on which Mariota took a quarterback hit from edge defender Bradley Chubb. The ensuing Dolphins drive resulted in Dolphins kicker and former Commanders kicker Riley Patterson connecting on a walk-off 29-yard field goal. Yes, a little salt in the wound as the Commanders, who are struggling at kicker, got walked off by one of their former kickers. Mariota played well, but that mistake loomed large. Here was Mariota during his postgame press conference on Sunday afternoon on what happened on the pick.
Yeah, they covered our first couple options well, and I tried to get backside to Zach. Guy undercut it, made a play. Unfortunate there, and give credit to him. He made a good play.
Yes, he did. So you take a step back. The Mikey Sainristil lost fumble on a muff catch of a punt in the fourth quarter. Matt Gay missing two 50-plus yard field goal attempts. Zach Ertz slipping, causing an incompletion on a 4th and goal for the Commanders at the 1 in the fourth quarter. Marcus Mariota throwing an interception on the first offensive snap of overtime. This collection of gaffes is the Commanders' 2025 season, and there's more. I mean, what about the penalties? Interior defensive lineman Javon Kinlaw committed 2 penalties, though only 1 was accepted. Running back Chris Rodriguez Jr. had a very costly penalty, 4th and 2 for the Commanders at the 3 with 2:47 left in the first quarter. Rodriguez committed a 5-yard false start penalty. Offensive lineman Brandon Coleman committed a 1-yard false start penalty on a 1st and 10 for the Commanders at their 2 with 6:06 left in the third quarter. The Commanders have become a team that finds ways to lose, that finds ways to mess up. The mess up factor with this team this season is sky high. The primary reason for the Commanders' disappointing season is injuries. There's not a doubt in my mind about that. But the injuries are not the only reason. It's not just injuries and then nothing else. No, it's injuries and then other stuff too. And we in this game saw plenty of other stuff. In terms of what Marcus Mariota did well in this game, so he completed 20 of his 30 pass attempts. That works out to a completion percentage of 66.67. He threw for 213 yards per pass attempt of 7.1, yards per completion of 10.65. Those stats aren't great, but you certainly can work with them. Mariota had a touchdown pass, although a lot of the work on the touchdown pass was by its recipient, receiver Deebo Samuel Sr. More on him next segment. Mariota quarterbacked the Commanders' offense that went 6 for 13 on third downs and 1 for 2 on fourth downs, and the fourth down fail was not on Mariota. That was on Zach Ertz slipping, but 4th and 1 for the Commanders at their 46 with 7:26 left in the first quarter. Mariota had a 4-yard under center play action completion to tight end Colson Yankoff. Mariota was impactful as a runner, 4 carries for 49 yards, a 3rd and 9 for the Commanders at their 41 with 10:49 left in the fourth quarter. Mariota had an outstanding 44-yard shotgun scramble. What a play that was. Mariota made a tremendous play to avoid a safety. 2nd and 15 for the Commanders at their 8 with 3:41 left in the third quarter. Mariota had a miracle throwaway to avoid a safety while being spun to the ground by edge defender Chop Robinson. Mariota was evaluated for a concussion and was cleared to return, but he left the game for a snap. But that was some play to avoid the safety. Now, Mariota, during his post-game press conference on Sunday afternoon, did say that he suffered a stinger. Here was Mariota during the post-game presser on being checked for the concussion, and then you hear a follow-up exchange with Commanders insider Nicky Javala of The Athletic.
Yeah, I got a stinger, and unfortunately when you get stingers, they kind of group that all into the concussion protocol. So I had to go into blue time for a little bit, but it was just a stinger down my right side, and nothing major. Something that I think every football player goes through when they play this game. I've had a few throughout my career, a couple in college. So I kind of knew what it was. It was just one of those things like when your arm kind of just gets tingly and numb, it'd be in a bad spot to play quarterback to do that. So I understand that they have to go through the concussion protocol. I understand the player safety part of it. So at the end of the day, I just kind of followed what the protocols was, and I got back in the game.
All right, so hopefully Marcus Mariota is fine moving forward. The Commanders now do have their bye week. Mariota took just one sack, though it was a bad sack. A 3rd and 10 for the Commanders at the Dolphins' 27 with 8:20 left in the second quarter. Mariota took a sack for a 6-yard loss. The next snap resulted in Matt Gay being wide right on a 51-yard field goal attempt. And so that's the thing. Mariota had just one major botch, but it was a colossal botch, the interception in overtime. Mariota took just one sack, but it was a crucial sack, leading to Matt Gay being wide right on a 51-yard field goal attempt. Seemingly everything that can go wrong for the 2025 Commanders does go wrong. They each game find ways to lose. The Commanders have been snake-bitten beyond belief with injury. No more fighting this. I'm not fighting this. Instead, let's take advantage of this. Let's put all of this to work for us to do some good for our team. Operation Lose Out 2.0 is on. A very high pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, perhaps a top 5 pick, is in sight. It is time to put this bad season to work for us. Marcus Mariota during his postgame press conference on Sunday afternoon on the state of the Commanders season.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, all these trials and tribulations that we're going through, I think ultimately is going to build us better. And we just have to kind of take it on the chin. It is what it is. We're not where we want to be. But the only way that we can dig ourselves out of it is learning from these mistakes and learning from these games. And I think we will.
All right, Nova Fireplace and Stove. It is Northern Virginia's go-to expert for fireplaces. Transform the look and feel of your home and increase its value by visiting Nova Fireplace and Stove in Woodbridge, Virginia, or by visiting NovaFireplaceandStove.com. And make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you for $25 off any service. Come in and see Nova Fireplace and Stove's stunning displays, including custom fireplace glass doors and stone refacing options that can completely transform the look of your fireplace. From sleek and modern to rustic and cozy, Nova Fireplace and Stove has something for every style. And here's what else Nova Fireplace and Stove offers: gas fireplace service and repair, chimney cleaning and brickwork repair, generator installation, panel replacements, and water heater repairs, smoke detectors, security lights, and more. Nova Fireplace and Stove is a family-owned, fully licensed and insured company with over-the-top credentials, gas and electrical master's licenses, a Class A contractor's license, and a long list of 5-star reviews to back all of this up. Every job includes a free in-home estimate, and for listeners of the Al Galdi podcast, Nova Fireplace and Stove is offering $25 off any service. Just mention this ad. Nova Fireplace and Stove only works in Northern Virginia and thus knows the homes, the codes, and the people. Your satisfaction is 100% guaranteed. That's Nova Fireplace and Stove in Woodbridge, Virginia, or NovaFireplaceandStove.com. And make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you for $25 off any service. Nova Fireplace and Stove, where comfort meets craftsmanship, and your fireplace becomes the heart of your home. More now on the Washington Commanders, off them in the NFL's 2025 regular season, falling to 3-8 with a 16-13 overtime loss to the Miami Dolphins in Madrid, Spain on Sunday. Here was Commanders head coach Dan Quinn during the opening statement of his postgame press conference on Sunday afternoon.
Just talking to the team after the game. It's tough. This one stings. Guys are definitely hurting, and in a lot of spaces they battled, and we had our opportunity to go win it. We didn't get that done, and like the energy going into the game, that felt right. Some of the things I like seeing, some goal line stops on defense, that certainly brought some energy. That felt right. Like seeing some big scramble by Marcus. That was a cool play to see us battling. And I think you've heard me talk about winning time moments and the missed opportunities, and that's what it felt like to me afterwards. And it doesn't all come up at the end or in the last seconds, but creating a takeaway on defense when you have a chance to go do that, or missed chances at a touchdown in the low red zone, missed kicks. getting a chance to get a lead and not being able to close it out, obviously, like that's the part that stings the most, because we gave ourselves finally a chance to put ourselves in a spot to go win. So that was kind of my message and where I was at. Got to heal the team up and fix that inconsistency that we're seeing that jams us up, whether it's a penalty or, like I said, a missed op in the spaces. So that's what we intend to do.
All right, so the Commanders' defense was better. Off 5 consecutive, mostly hideous performances, the Commanders' defense was better. This, of course, was the first game since head coach Dan Quinn on November 10th announced having demoted Joe Witt Jr. and having taken over as defensive coordinator, and the defense in this game showed improvement. Now, it helped that the defense, for the first time in 5 games, was not facing an elite offense. The previous 4 opposing offenses had been those of the Dallas Cowboys, Kansas City Chiefs, Seattle Seahawks, and Detroit Lions, 4 of the best offenses in the NFL. The Dolphins, not so much. The Dolphins for this regular season through Week 10 were number 25 in the NFL in total offense per DVOA. But still, given how many key players were missing for the Commanders' defense and given how bad the defense had been, the defense showed improvement and does deserve credit. The Commanders for this game were without 6 defensive starters due to injury/suspension. Interior defensive lineman Daron Payne, he did not play in this game. He served a 1-game suspension without pay. This, of course, for throwing a punch at Detroit Lions receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown in the Commanders' 44-22 loss to the Lions at Northwest Stadium on November 9th. And out due to injury for this loss to the Dolphins were edge defenders Dorrance Armstrong and Dietrich Wise Jr., cornerbacks Marshawn Lattimore and Trey Amos, and safety Will Harris. The Commanders for this game were without 6 defensive starters due to injury/suspension. And yet, the Commanders held the Dolphins to just 16 points, just 311 total net yards of offense, just 3 for 9 on third downs, and 0 for 2 on fourth downs. So the defense got some big stops. So the Dolphins came into this game having scored 13 touchdowns over 13 goal-to-goal drives in this regular season. But the Commanders' defense stopped the Dolphins on 2 such drives as the Commanders held the Dolphins to just 1 for 5 in the red zone. 3rd and goal for the Dolphins at the 2 with 6:56 left in the third quarter. Linebacker Frankie Louvu and cornerback Mike Yasane were still stuffed. Running back Ollie Gordon II on an offset I formation handoff run for no gain. And on a 4th and goal for the Dolphins at the 2 with 6:09 left in the third quarter, linebacker Bobby Wagner had a diving pass defense on a shotgunning completion by quarterback Tua Tagovailoa on a pass intended for receiver Jalen Waddle. And 3rd and goal for the Dolphins at the 1 with 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Interior defensive lineman Javon Kinlaw and linebacker Bobby Wagner stuffed running back Devon Achane on a pistol handoff run for no gain. And on a 4th and goal for the Dolphins at the 1 with 1:44 left in the fourth quarter, interior defensive lineman Eddie Goldman and linebacker Frankie Louvu stuffed running back Ollie Gordon II on an under center handoff run for a 2-yard loss. Some tremendous plays by the defense there. Yes, I said that. Tremendous plays by the defense there. Also, the Commanders had 3 sacks, and each sack happened on a 3rd down. So a lot of good stuff from the defense. Now, it was not all good. The Commanders' run defense was bad. They allowed Dolphins running backs Devon Achane, Ollie Gordon II, and Jalen Wright to combine for 31 carries for 169 yards and a touchdown. The Commanders allowed Achane to have 21 carries for 120 yards. So the Commanders in the first quarter allowed Achane to have 5 carries for 50 yards. Achane is a really good back, but the Commanders way too often got gashed by him. The Dolphins, like so many other Commanders opponents this season, feasted on the perimeter run. I tell you, the Commanders without Dietrich Wise Jr. just cannot consistently set the edge. Also, the Commanders allowed Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa to complete 70% of his pass attempts and have a yards per pass attempt of 8.55. He went 14 for 20 for 171 yards, no touchdowns, and no interceptions. And the Commanders had no takeaways. Yet another 0 takeaway outing for the Commanders defense. The team now has a mere 6 takeaways over 11 games in this regular season. But still, the defense was better. Low bar, but better. Here was Dan Quinn during his post-game press conference on Sunday afternoon on the Commanders' defensive performance in the game.
Yeah, I was pleased to see them make some plays, and I thought down in that inside the 5, inside the 1, we're like, hang in, keep battling, go fight for the next one. We talked about even at the half, and what I'd kind of spoken to the team about last night is what's next matters. That's what you can influence, not what was. And so I said, we're all mad over the month that has been, but you have a chance to influence this tomorrow. I think it's going to take speed, it's going to take tackling, not to create the takeaways. That would have been the one thing that I thought that would have been a real spot to go, give ourselves a better chance to go win it.
All right, a few other notes from the game. Chris Rodriguez Jr. was used as the Commanders' #1 running back, and he did well. He had 15 carries for 79 yards and had 1 reception for 6 yards on 1 target. Did commit a crucial 5-yard false start penalty, 4th and 2 for the Commanders at the 3 with 2:47 left in the first quarter. Rodriguez committed a 5-yard false start penalty, but he had a number of good runs, including with Brandon Coleman in as a 3rd offensive tackle. 2nd and 4 for the Commanders at their 47 with 14:08 left in the 3rd quarter. Rodriguez had a 12-yard offset I formation toss run on which Brandon Coleman was in as a 3rd offensive tackle. 3rd and 1 for the Commanders at the Dolphins 32 with 12:10 left in the 3rd quarter. Rodriguez had a 12-yard shotgun handoff run in which Brandon Coleman, as a 3rd offensive tackle, had a great block on linebacker Jordan Brooks. A running back Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt had 9 carries for 28 yards and had 1 reception for 5 yards on 1 target. Running back Jeremy McNichols had 4 carries for 13 yards and had 2 receptions for 16 yards on 2 targets, including a clutch 3rd down catch. 3rd and 9 for the Commanders at their 3 with 5:15 left in the 3rd quarter. Quarterback Marcus Mariota had a 10-yard shotgun completion to McNichols, who generated 10 yards after the catch. So some good stuff from Commanders backs, but Rodriguez was the best. He was used as the RB1 in this game, and he should remain in that role moving forward. He has looked good lately. Best game for receiver Deebo Samuel Sr. in weeks. He had 7 receptions for 74 yards and a touchdown on 8 targets and had 1 carry for 3 yards. He also drew a 15-yard defensive pass interference penalty, but he also committed a 10-yard offensive pass interference penalty. The touchdown reception was awesome. On a 1st and 10 for the Commanders at the 20, Marcus Mariota had a 20-yard shotgun touchdown pass to Deebo with 11:24 left in the 3rd quarter on a screen on which Deebo generated 22 yards after the catch. The penalty that Deebo drew was quite the gift. 2nd and 11 for the Commanders at their 5 with 4:56 left in the 2nd quarter. Deebo drew a 15-yard defensive pass interference penalty by cornerback Jack Jones on what was a very charitable penalty call for our team. And the penalty that Deebo committed was a red zone penalty. 3rd and 8 for the Commanders at the Dolphins 15 with 17 seconds left in the 2nd quarter. Deebo committed a 10-yard offensive pass interference penalty, and also on the snap was the Commanders committing an illegal formation penalty that was declined. The Commanders in the game 0 for 3 in the red zone. The Commanders punted just once. A punter, Tressway, had just 1 punt, a 41-yard punt to the Dolphins 44 in the 3rd quarter. Dolphins receiver Malik Washington, who the Dolphins took in the 6th round of the 2024 NFL Draft out of the University of Virginia. He had a 3-yard return and taken a big hit by linebacker Kane Medrano. Running back Chase Edmonds was the Commanders' primary kickoff returner. He over 4 kickoff returns averaged 23.25 yards per return. The Commanders on Saturday afternoon announced having elevated Edmonds from the practice squad for this game. And the Commanders committed a special teams penalty. Safety Percy Butler committed a 5-yard holding penalty on a punt return by receiver Jalen Lane in the 2nd quarter. Sticking together. Will the Commanders stick together as their season has become a shell of what the season was supposed to be? We, during Dan Quinn's postgame press conference on Sunday afternoon, had this exchange between Commanders insider Nikki Javala of The Athletic and Quinn.
The challenge for you to basically at 3-8.
That's the challenge, Nikki. That's the challenge, because the emotional part, not just the physical part, like not getting what we want, in those spaces. So how do you, pull yourself up and find the space? Like, self-pity's not going to fix it. And so disappointment, all those things are natural things. And so I'll do my best to make sure, and this is how we're going to go play. This is how we're going to do it. The group will fight. I'm certain of that.
All right. The Nace Law Group, Accident and Injury Lawyers. It has been a Washington, D.C. institution for decades. If you feel that you've been wronged, if you think that you've been wronged but aren't sure, contact the Nace Law Group, Accident and Injury Lawyers, and schedule a no-obligation appointment. Call 202-902-7611 or visit WashingtonDCInjuryLawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. Founded in 1979, the Nace Law Group offers fierce advocacy on behalf of medical malpractice, birth injury, and personal injury victims. Led by the great Chris Nace, the Nace Law Group is focused on providing exceptional care and counsel for those who need such things the most. The Nace Law Group fights for what it believes in, you, your family, and your future. You with the Nace Law Group have an experienced advocate on your side. The Nace Law Group has secured millions of dollars in verdict and settlement amounts for clients to better enable them to care for themselves and their families. Call 202-902-7611 or visit WashingtonDCInjuryLawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. That's 202-902-7611 or WashingtonDCInjuryLawyers.com, and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. The Nace Law Group, Accident and Injury Lawyers. Time now to talk college football. We just had week 12 of the 2025 season. We on Saturday had 6 of the 7 FBS teams of the Mid-Atlantic region in action, but the biggest news from the weekend regarding these teams was coaching news, including shocking news. Early Sunday afternoon, Maryland Director of Athletics Jim Smith is retaining Mike Locksley as head coach beyond this season. Mike Locksley, who appeared as good as gone, is staying. Jim Smith to multiple outlets said this, and that Maryland plans to significantly increase financial support for the football program, wrote Smith in a letter to Terp Nation in support of Coach Locksley. Quote, Coach Locksley bleeds Maryland, has deep and unmatched ties to the DMV, and he has led this program to success unprecedented in our 133-year football history, including 3 consecutive bowl victories, with 3 straight winning seasons from 2021 through 23. Those accomplishments demonstrate what this program is capable of when aligned and supported. But in the 2 short years since that run, the entire environment of college athletics has transformed. To continue building on this foundation, Coach Locksley needs and deserves the full support of our department, our university, and all of Terp Nation. We are fully committed to giving him and our student athletes the resources and investments necessary to succeed. I have worked closely with Coach Locksley to rapidly strengthen our NIL support for 2026 and beyond, with a clear and focused effort on roster retention, recruiting, and being highly competitive in the transfer portal. End quote. Wow, that was a whopper. What makes Jim Smith retaining Mike Locksley as head coach beyond this season so surprising are 2 things. A, the program just is not showing progress under Mike Locksley. B, Jim Smith to Taylor Lyons of the Baltimore Sun this past Tuesday, November 11th, gave Locksley what appeared to be a kiss of death. Quote, he's going to coach against Illinois, then he's going to coach against Michigan, and then he's going to coach against Michigan State. We got a chance to win 3 games and go to a bowl game. We can't make a decision right now. That'd be silly. We'll determine at the end of the year where we are, end quote. Well, Smith, at the end of the season, will not be seeing where we are, as he already made up his mind. Look, what all of this says to me is that Jim Smith had no interest in paying the buyout for Mike Locksley, or had no ability to pay the buyout for Mike Locksley. $13.4 million. And that is disappointing because that is not some astronomical buyout. That, per USA Today, ranks as the 3rd cheapest head coaching contract buyout in the Big Ten. December 4th, 2018. That was when Maryland announced the hiring of Mike Locksley as head coach. Maryland, for the 2021 through 2023 seasons, won at least 7 games in each of 3 consecutive seasons, marking the first time that Maryland had at least 7 wins in each of at least 3 consecutive seasons since the 2001 through 2003 seasons, which were Ralph Regent's first 3 seasons as Maryland head coach. But Maryland, in its 2024 season, went 4-8 overall, including 1-8 in the Big Ten. Maryland this past May 15th announced the hiring of Jim Smith as Director of Athletics. He had been serving as the Senior Vice President of Business Strategy for the Atlanta Braves. And now Smith is keeping Locksley. Despite the Terrapin season having unraveled, Maryland fell to 4-6 overall, including 1-6 in the Big Ten, with a 24-6 loss at Illinois on Saturday. The Terps have lost 6 consecutive games since a 4-0 start. Maryland's offense was quite bad. The Terps scored just 6 points, generated just 293 total net yards of offense, averaged just 4.58 yards per play, and went just 3 for 12 on third downs and 0 for 2 on fourth downs. So Maryland true freshman quarterback Malik Washington had another bad game, just 25 for 46 for just 238 yards, no touchdowns, and an interception. He was plagued by 2 killer end zone drops in the fourth quarter. He took 1 sack, which was for a mere 3-yard loss. He had 3 carries for 9 yards when you take out the sack that he took. And in fairness to Washington, he continues to barely have a running game with which to work. Maryland running backs DeJuan Williams and Nolan Ray combined for 14 carries for just 49 yards. Maryland for this season through Week 12 is 114th out of 136 FBS teams in rushing yards per game, 116.8. Navy is number 1, by the way, 304.9. Maryland's defense in this loss at Illinois was not perfect, but certainly played well enough to win. The Terps held Illinois to just 24 points and 5.44 yards per play. Did allow Illinois to go 7 for 13 on third downs. Maryland for this season through Week 12 is 100th out of 136 FBS teams in offensive efficiency per ESPN, but also is number 29 in the FBS in defensive efficiency per ESPN. Next up for Maryland, home to number 18 Michigan, Saturday afternoon at 4. But yeah, Maryland is keeping Mike Locksley as head coach. A big win for Navy off 2 consecutive losses. The midshipmen improved to 8-2 overall, including 6-1 in the AAC, with a 41-38 win over number 24 South Florida on Senior Day at Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium in Annapolis, Maryland on Saturday afternoon. Navy, for the Associated Press Top 25 poll that came out on Sunday afternoon, was number 1 among others receiving votes. South Florida for this game was the number 24 team in the FBS for the season's second college football playoff rankings, which came out this past Tuesday night. Navy's offense was great. The mid scored 41 points, generated 524 total net yards of offense, and averaged 7.28 yards per play. Navy's QB1 Blake Horvath returned from a 1-game absence caused by injury, left the game twice due to cramping, and so Navy's QB2 Braxton Woodson was called upon, and he was terrific. Horvath completed just 8 of his 15 pass attempts, but he threw for 147 yards, a touchdown, and no interceptions. He took 1 sack, which was for an 8-yard loss. He had 20 carries for 68 yards when you take out the sack that he took. Woodson went 2 for 3 for 39 yards, no touchdowns, and no interceptions. He took no sacks. He had 9 carries for 103 yards and 2 touchdowns. Also, Navy running back Alex Teska had 12 carries for 126 yards and a touchdown, and had 1 reception for 14 yards and a touchdown on 2 targets. And a salute to Navy slot back Eli Heidenreich. He had 6 carries for 39 yards and had 5 receptions for 146 yards on 11 targets. He became Navy's all-time leader in receiving yards. Now, Navy won despite its defense getting shredded. The Mids allowed South Florida to score 38 points, put up 556 total net yards of offense, average 8.06 yards per play, and go 5 for 12 on third down. So the Mids allowed USF quarterback Byram Brown to go 23 for 32 for 327 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception, and have 16 carries for 141 yards and 2 touchdowns when you take out the 1 sack that Navy had. Navy for this season through Week 12 is number 27 in the FBS in offensive efficiency per ESPN, but also is 119th out of 136 FBS teams in defensive efficiency per ESPN. The offense is really good. The defense, quite bad. But the Mids are having a tremendous season. Here was Navy head coach Brian Newberry during the opening statement of his postgame press conference on Saturday afternoon.
Man, I'm so proud of this football team. I told them, after the game, this is the team I've been waiting to see all year long. And that's not to say that it was perfect. It certainly wasn't, especially in the second half, some points. But, man, I'm so proud. What they did today is they came out and they competed fearlessly. And that was the message this week, is just cut it loose, compete your tails off, play for each other, play for these seniors. And this is a special senior class. I just can't say enough good things about this group and what they've done throughout their time here. They've done things the right way, worked their tails off, stayed the course, stayed with it. And this is exactly what they deserve, is to go out like this in their last home game here at Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium. So I couldn't be happier about that. Got a chance to celebrate them, last night and in the locker room after the game. It was a pretty special moment. Those guys have a special place in my heart. And so just super proud of our football team. A lot of great individual performances out there. We can talk more about that as we get into this, but did what we needed to get done, and would like to have gotten some more stops there in the second half defensively. I thought we came out in the first half. I think they had 8, maybe 9 possessions. And I thought we played lights out on defense and got some big time stops. Set our offense up a really good field position a couple of times. We had some personnel changes, played some young corners. We had 2 freshman corners play today and made some mistakes, but those guys competed, and I was really, really proud of that. So we've got a darn good football team, right? When we play the way that we did today in all 3 phases. And again, it wasn't perfect. There's some things you'd certainly like to get back in the second half on the defensive side of the football. But overall, just so proud of this team and the senior class. And that's a big-time win for us today, big-time win.
Yes, it is. Next up for Navy is a bye week. The Mids' next game is at Memphis on Thursday night, November 27th at 7:30. A bounce-back win for number 19 Virginia off its 16-9 loss to Wake Forest at Scott Stadium in Charlottesville, Virginia on November 8th. The Cavaliers improved to 9-2 overall, including 6-1 in the ACC with a 34-17 win at Duke on Saturday. Virginia for this game was the number 19 team in the FBS per the season's second college football playoff rankings, which came out last Tuesday night. Virginia for this game was the number 20 team in the FBS in the Associated Press Top 25 poll that came out on November 9th, and UVA off this win moved up to being the number 19 team in the FBS in the Associated Press Top 25 poll that came out on Sunday afternoon. This win at Duke gives UVA its first 9-win season since going 9-5 overall in the 2019 season, and UVA dominated this game. The Cavs generated 540 total net yards of offense to Duke's 255, averaged 7.01 yards per play to Duke's 4.4, went 12 for 19 on third downs to Duke's 4 for 15, had 4 sacks to Duke's 0, and won the time of possession battle by 11 minutes 56 seconds. A thorough beatdown of the Blue Devils by the Cavs. So UVA's QB1, North Texas transfer Chandler Morris. He did start despite having left that loss to Wake Forest due to injury. And Morris in this win at Duke was good. He went 23 for 35 for 316 yards and 2 touchdowns. He did throw 2 interceptions, but he took no sacks. Morris had 2 carries for 9 yards. Also, UVA running back and North Carolina Central transfer Jamari Taylor. He had 18 carries for 133 yards and 2 touchdowns, and had 1 reception for 25 yards on 4 targets. So here was UVA head coach Tony Elliott during his postgame press conference on Saturday evening.
I felt like this was probably the most complete game, that we've played in all three phases, and that's really what you're talking about, is being able to show up in all 3 phases and play complementary football. And I think you saw just what I've been able to see, and it's hard. And that's what I told them. I said, fellas, I recognize it. I've seen it. I've seen it in you. And I'm telling you, you got it. Now, you have to go showcase it to the world for everybody else to tell you that you got it, right? And so it was just good to see them come out and just play free and not really focus on what's at stake, but just focus on trying to play their best 4 quarters of the year. And I felt like, and then we'll go back and watch the tape, and I may change my opinion after I watch the tape, but I feel coming off the field, I feel like they played their best 4 quarters collectively.
Yeah, really good performance by the Wahoos. Next up for Virginia is a bye week. The Cavs' next game is their regular season finale, home to Virginia Tech on Saturday, November 29th. And speaking of Virginia Tech, college football insiders Bruce Feldman and Ralph D. Russo of The Athletic, they in a piece that came out on Friday morning reported that former Penn State head coach James Franklin was Virginia Tech's top target for the program's head coaching vacancy. Feldman and Russo also reported that James Madison head coach Bob Chesney was receiving interest from Virginia Tech and Penn State. Quote, we've heard Penn State is exploring a lot of options, including Georgia Tech's Brent Key and James Madison's Bob Chesney. Only 2 seasons removed from coaching at FCS Holy Cross, the 48-year-old Chesney is viewed inside the coaching world as someone with big upside, end quote. Also, ESPN college football insider Pete Thamel, he on Saturday morning reported that Virginia Tech and James Franklin were, quote, in the early stages of talks with some resolution on his candidacy expected in the coming days, end quote. James Franklin would be a terrific hire for Virginia Tech. Penn State this past October 12th announced having fired Franklin as head coach. The problem was that Franklin, as Penn State head coach, went just 4-21 against teams ranked in the top 10 of an Associated Press top 25 poll. But he, over 11-plus seasons as Penn State head coach, had an overall record of 104-45. He's tied for being the second winningest head coach in the history of Penn State football. The guy can coach. Virginia Tech fell to 3-7 overall, including 2-4 in the ACC, with a 34-14 loss at Florida State on Saturday night. We had a scoreless first quarter. The Hokies lost the second quarter 10-7, so they at the half trailed by just 3 points, but the Hokies lost the second half 24-7. The Hokies statistically were about even with FSU, but the Hokies lost the turnover battle 2-0. Each turnover was by Hokies quarterback Kyron Drones, who had a bad game as a passer, did have a good game as a runner. Drones committed 2 turnovers, an interception in the first quarter, and a lost fumble on a sack strip in the third quarter. He completed just 10 of his 18 pass attempts. He threw for just 125 yards. He did have 17 carries for 83 yards and a touchdown when you take out the sack that he took. Also, Hokies running back and Central Missouri transfer Marcellus Hawkins, he had 12 carries for 101 yards and had 1 reception for -5 yards. But yeah, the focus for Virginia Tech football should be on 2026. Is Tech about to hire James Franklin as head coach? Next up for Virginia Tech, home to number 15 Miami Saturday at noon. Now, I mentioned James Madison head coach Bob Chesney. Is JMU about to lose its head coach? JMU's on fire. The Dukes won their 8th consecutive game, improved to 9-1 overall, including 7-0 in the Sun Belt Conference, with a 58-10 win over Appalachian State at Bridgeforth Stadium in Harrisonburg, Virginia on Saturday. James Madison for this game was the number 24 team in the FBS in the Associated Press top 25 poll that came out on November 9th, and JMU off this win moved up to being the number 21 team in the FBS in the Associated Press top 25 poll that came out on Sunday afternoon. Also, JMU via this win and Georgia Southern's 45-40 home win over Coastal Carolina on Saturday evening clinched the Sun Belt Conference East Division title and thus clinched a spot in the Sun Belt Conference Championship game. JMU obliterated Appalachian State on Saturday. The Dukes had 627 total net yards of offense. App State's 146. Averaged 7.04 yards per play. App State's 2.81. Went 8 for 14 on third downs. App State's 1 for 12. And won the time of possession battle by 24 minutes 36 seconds. The Dukes had 324 total net yards rushing to App State's 1. JMU won the rushing yardage battle 324-1. JMU quarterback Alonzo Barnett III actually had a mixed game. He completed just 22 of his 35 pass attempts, had no touchdown passes, and took 3 sacks, which totaled minus 35 yards in lost yardage. But Barnett threw for 303 yards and had 8 carries for 35 yards and 2 touchdowns when you take out the 3 sacks that he took. We joined the postgame press conference of Bob Chesney on Saturday evening. Had this back and forth between Mike Barber, editor-in-chief for CVilleRightNow.com, and Chesney, and you'll hear Barber reference App State head coach Dowell Loggins.
Dowell said that he felt like watching you guys on film, you've gotten steadily better all year. And
yes.
Obviously you've been winning all year.
Yes.
But 1, I imagine you'd like to hear that as a coach. 2, do you see that? In what areas do you see steady improvement?
Yeah, that's what I've talked about the whole time. I appreciate him seeing it too, but that's what we were talking about, week to week in here, is that not only do we get better from week to week, we get better every practice, but then in game, from first half to second half, we get better every single week. And that is something to me, if we could keep doing that, where does this thing end up, right? Where's the ceiling in this whole thing? I don't know. But, we're certainly breaking through it right now, I think. And then just who knows, where this goes. But they're doing a really good job. We got to stay healthy. We got to make sure that we continue to do the right things in practice. We handle, the player load and the volume and all the intensity that we're putting in the practice, that we keep guys safe. But ultimately, they just got to keep showing up every day and practicing. They get better every day. And then they get better from half to half, right? And then we get better from week to week. And what more can you ask for?
Let me ask you about that ceiling then. South Florida lost today. Cincinnati lost today. Do you talk to the guys at all about either the college football playoff picture or not talking about the picture?
No, there's just so much that could still go on. I don't think that's worth talking about right now. I think the fact that you're ranked and that there's a lot of conversation around it, I think that's excellent. But at the same point in time, we still got 2 more games left against 2 really good opponents, and everybody else that's playing has, I'm sure, 2 more games against pretty good opponents. So this whole thing could look one way and get flipped right upside down and nothing, come from this. I get no comfort from, our conversation being in that, our name being in that conversation. But at the same point, it's nice, right? It's a nice thing to have. And I don't want to pretend it doesn't exist like I talked about before. So I think, wherever we sat with that little number next to us and our percentages of being in these playoffs and everything else, how did you get there, right? How did you get there? That's what matters. And however we got there, we better keep doing that.
Bob Chesney doing an outstanding job in his second season as JMU head coach. The Dukes for this season through week 12 are number 25 in the FBS in overall team efficiency per ESPN. Next up for James Madison, home to Washington State Saturday afternoon at 1, and the Dukes for this game will wear Marvel Avenger themed helmets. And a disappointing loss for Liberty. The Flames fell to 4-6 overall, including 3-3 in Conference USA, with a 34-27 overtime loss at FIU on Saturday evening. The game was pretty even statistically. The Flames scored a touchdown on each of their first 3 offensive possessions, but then did not score a touchdown the rest of the game. Liberty quarterback and Coastal Carolina transfer Ethan Vasco had a rough game. Now, we did have a 29-yard completion to set up a game-tying 48-yard field goal by kicker Jay Billingsley as time expired in the fourth quarter. But Vasco for the game went just 17 for 31 for just 218 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions, which came in the fourth quarter and overtime. And he took 3 sacks, which totaled minus 18 yards in lost yardage. He had 5 carries for 29 yards when you take out the 3 sacks that he took. Ethan Vasco for this season through week 12 is 109th out of 132 qualified FBS quarterbacks, in ESPN's total QBR 44.4. Liberty running back and Georgia Tech transfer Evan Dickens had 28 carries for 106 yards and a touchdown and had 1 reception for 3 yards. Next up for Liberty at Louisiana Tech Saturday afternoon at 3. What has become a very familiar theme for the Washington Capitals in the NHL's 2025-2026 regular season continued in their lone game over the weekend. Great on puck possession and bad on special teams. So the Caps fell to 8-2 with a 3-2 shootout loss to the New Jersey Devils at Capital One Arena on Saturday night. The Caps did overcome a 2-0 third period deficit to get a point. They won the third period 2-0 off having lost the first period 2-0 and then there being a scoreless second period. And scoring the game-tying goal was the Great Eight. Caps top-line left wing Alex Ovechkin. He scored an even-strength goal 8:29 into the third period to tie the game at 2 for his 5th goal in this regular season. Ovi had a really good game. He also had a primary assist. He was number 2 on the Caps in total shot attempts at 11, including 3 shots on goal. And he had a game-high 4 hits. A game-high 4 hits in his age 40 season. Pretty remarkable. Also, Caps top-line right wing Connor McMichael, he snapped a 9-game goalless drought. He scored an even-strength goal 1 minute into the third period for just his 2nd goal in this regular season. But he had a good game. He also had a primary assist and was tied for number 2 on the Caps in shots on goal at 4. And he was number 2 on the Caps in 5-on-5 shot attempt percentage for the game per natural stat trick at 69.7. The Caps with McMichael on the ice in 5-on-5 situations in the game had 23 shot attempts versus teams, allowing 10 shot attempts. Also having a good game was the Caps' number one goaltender, Logan Thompson. He stopped 29 of the 31 shots on goal that he faced, including all 17 of the shots on goal that he faced over the second period, third period, and overtime. A nice bounce-back performance for Thompson off him of the Caps' 6-3 loss at the Florida Panthers this past Thursday night, having stopped just 22 of the 27 shots on goal that he faced. But yeah, Caps special teams, again, not good. The Caps went just 2 for 3 on the penalty kill. All 3 of the penalties on the Caps came in the first period that they lost 2-0, and the Caps went 0 for 1 on the power play. This as the Caps, again, were good in puck possession. Each team had 31 shots on goal, but the Caps, per natural stat trick, had 63 5-on-5 shot attempts to the Devils' 45, including 13 5-on-5 high-danger shot attempts to the Devils' 8. The Caps for this regular season, as of games through Saturday, were number 3 in the NHL in 5-on-5 shot attempt percentage per NHL.com, 54.8%, but also were number 30 out of 32 NHL teams in power play efficiency, 14.6%, and were number 28 out of 32 NHL teams in penalty kill efficiency, 72.9. We joined the post-game press conference of Caps head coach Spencer Carberry on Saturday night, had this exchange between Caps insider Sammy Silber of the Hockey News and Carberry.
You've been talking a lot about the process, and the players have been talking about trusting the process over this stretch. How do you keep them encouraged as frustration might mount? It might become, more easier said than done to do that.
Honestly, Sammy, like our since I got to Washington, our process, whether we're 17-0 or 0-17, from a standpoint of us coming in and getting to work and working, and as a staff, I'll speak to the staff, then I'll speak to the players, is I'm going to do everything I possibly can tonight, tomorrow morning, to take what we did tonight, good, bad, and try to get better with it. And we're going to get to work on that tomorrow. And it's the same thing for the players. So I think when we look at it, when we talk as a staff and with our group, is whether we go on a 10-game heater and win 10 games in a row, we're still going to come back to the rink and be motivated and hungry to get better that next day and find ways that we can improve and push each other so that we can win 11 in a row. And if we don't, okay, we're going to do the exact same. So it's not a like if you're talking process from an X's and O's standpoint, though that's different. Like we're looking at adjustments all the time. Are we going to revamp our entire neutral zone forecheck and forecheck or O zone play to try to score more goals? Probably not, because it's worked in the past. Can we tweak some things and look at ways to score more or defend better? Absolutely, and we do that every day. But from an overall mindset of what our group is and what we're going to be about, the culture here, whether we're 25-0 or 0-25, that ain't changing. We're coming to work, and we are going to get better every single day, and that's our mindset.
Well, also with this shootout loss for the Caps to the Devils on Saturday night were some injury situations. So the Caps were without defenseman John Carlson. He did not play due to an upper body injury. Also, center Pierre-Luc Dubois remains on injured reserve. This due to injuries that he suffered in the Caps' 3-1 loss to the New York Islanders at Capital One Arena on October 31st. Dubois on November 7th underwent surgery to address injuries to his abdominal and adductor muscles. So was expected to miss 3 to 4 months. So the Caps' healthy scratches on Saturday night were defenseman Dylan McIlrath and winger Sonny Milano. And for the Devils, their best player, center Jack Hughes, did not play on Saturday night. The Devils on Saturday afternoon announced that Hughes had undergone surgery on a finger and was expected to be out for 8 weeks. The Devils on Friday afternoon announced that Hughes was, quote, out with a non-hockey hand injury, end quote. What happened? He, per reports, hurt the finger during a freak accident at a team dinner this past Thursday. Washington Commanders managing partner Josh Harris is co-managing partner of the Devils. It would appear that the Commanders' horrendous injury luck this year has spread to the Devils. Next up for the Caps, home to the Los Angeles Kings, Monday night at 7. Well, as we are launching Operation Loseout 2.0 for the Washington Commanders, perhaps they should look to our rebuilding and tanking Washington Wizards for guidance. They had one game over the weekend, a 23-point loss at home to one of the worst teams in the NBA, the Brooklyn Nets. That, my friends, is how you tank. A 129-106 loss to the Nets at Capital One Arena on Sunday evening. The Wizards lost their 11th consecutive game. They in the NBA's 2025-2026 regular season now are 1-12. The Nets in this regular season now are 2-11, and yet the Wizards made the Nets look like an elite team. I mean, this was a no-doubt blowout loss for our Wizards. They trailed for all of the third and fourth quarters. Again, that is how you tank. That is elite level tanking. Bilal Coulibaly was back. That was good. He returned from a 4-game absence caused by a left calf contusion. He in 27 minutes, 35 seconds as a starter went just 2 for 6 from the field, all twos, 2 for 2 on free throws. He finished with 6 points, 4 assists versus no turnovers, 3 rebounds, 2 blocks, and 2 steals. So he wasn't much of an offensive factor in terms of scoring, but he did do a bunch of other things. Also, another impressive game for Keyshawn George. He in 31-44 as a starter went 5 for 10 on threes, 4 for 6 on twos, and 6 for 7 on free throws, and finished with 29 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists versus 4 turnovers. He did foul out. Also dealing with foul trouble was Alex Sarr. He fouled out. He played for just 23.06 as a starter. And by the way, Keyshawn George after the game told reporters that the Wizards after the game did hold a players-only meeting. Next up for the Wizards at the Minnesota Timberwolves Wednesday night at 8. And let's talk college basketball. Maryland basketball already is having a 2025 Washington Commanders-like season in terms of terrible injury luck. Now, the Terrapins over the weekend did get a nice win. Maryland in the 2025-2026 regular season improved to 3-1 overall with an 89-82 win at Marquette on Saturday afternoon. But Maryland's best player, 6'9", Texas A&M transfer Pharrell Payne, he left the game due to a nasty fall off hanging on the rim on a dunk in the second half. He essentially landed on his knees with each lower leg bent outwardly. This was such a gruesome visual. We'll see what the exact diagnosis ends up being. Payne in 17 minutes as a starter went 6 for 6 from the field, all twos, went 1 for 1 on free throws. He finished with 13 points and 2 assists versus 3 turnovers. Maryland already was without 2 key players in 6'7", Texas A&M transfer Solomon Washington and 6'3", Indiana transfer Miles Rice due to ankle injuries. Also 6'7", Texas A&M transfer George Turkson Jr. was out for an undisclosed reason, and 6'5", Kansas transfer Rakis Passmore suffered a season-ending torn Achilles tendon during the 2025 preseason. The Terps already in this young season have been hammered by injury. This was Maryland head coach Buzz Williams during his postgame press conference on Saturday afternoon on what happened with Pharrell Payne, and you'll hear Williams refer to Payne by his nickname, Gochi.
I was a little caught off guard. Obviously, we have 15 new players, and this is the second week of the season. Gochi followed us here. He's the only player that followed us here that has played for us this season. He's our best player. That's well received within our program. I've never seen him hurt. And the angle that I saw, it did not appear good. I know I'm not supposed to run out on the floor. So I was there probably a little longer than I should. And when I got back to the huddle, our kids said, "Coach, you got to pray for him." And so I don't mean this condescending. I didn't talk about ball. We just prayed for him. And I do think that their response, not their execution, but their response and maybe some of the intangible things that are important, whether there's an injury or not, was great growth for our program.
And this was a terrific win for Maryland. The Terps, despite these injury issues, overcame a 9-point second-half deficit at 57-48, ended the game on a 41-25 run. The Terps won despite having just 4 offensive rebounds to Marquette's 20, and thus just 6 second-chance points to Marquette's 25. Maryland's defense was great. The Terps held Marquette to just 11 for 40 on threes and just 17 for 36 on twos. Maryland's shooting was very good. The Terps went 8 for 22 on threes, 21 for 33 on twos, and 23 for 27 on free throws. 85 of Maryland's 89 points were scored by just 6 players. I mentioned Pharrell Payne scoring 13 points. 5'11" Kansas transfer David Diggy Coit, our guy Diggy. He had 37 minutes as a starter, went 4 for 7 on threes, 2 for 6 on twos, and 3 for 4 on free throws. He finished with 19 points, 5 assists versus 4 turnovers and 3 rebounds. 6'3" Washington State transfer Isaiah Watts. He in 29 minutes off the bench went 3 for 4 on threes, 2 for 2 on twos, and 5 for 6 on free throws. He finished with 18 points, 2 rebounds, and 2 assists versus no turnovers. 6'5" freshman Darius Adams, a 5-star prospect per 24/7 Sports and Rivals. He in 34 minutes as a starter went 0 for 4 on threes, but also 5 for 6 on twos and 6 for 7 on free throws. He finished with 16 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists versus 1 turnover. 6'4" Texas A&M transfer Andre Mills. He in 22 minutes as a starter went 0 for 3 on threes, 3 for 6 on twos, and 5 for 5 on free throws. He finished with 11 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists versus 2 turnovers. And 6'8" Virginia transfer Elijah Saunders. He in 38 minutes as a starter had 8 points, 11 rebounds, and 2 steals. He did shoot poorly, just 1 for 4 on threes, just 2 for 6 on twos, 1 for 2 on free throws, and he had no assists versus 2 turnovers. The status of Pharrell Payne is of principal concern, but man, Maryland played well in this game. Next up for Maryland, home to Mount St. Mary's Wednesday night at 7. Georgetown in this regular season improved to 4-0 overall with a 79-74 win over Clemson at Capital One Arena on Saturday afternoon. The Hoyas early in the second half trailed by 4 points at 39-35, but then went on a 29-15 run for a 64-54 lead and then held on for the win. The Hoyas won despite going just 6 for 17 on threes, dropping the Hoyas to just 19 for 82 on threes in this regular season. Georgetown is 4-0 despite shooting just 23.17% on threes. Also, the Hoyas on Saturday afternoon went just 18 for 36 on twos, but the Hoyas went 25 for 32 on free throws. Clemson went 14 for 20 on free throws, and the Hoyas were good defensively. They held Clemson to 10 for 29 on threes and just 15 for 32 on twos. 69 of the Hoyas' 79 points came from just 4 players. 6'4" Arizona transfer KJ Lewis, 37 minutes as a starter, 1 for 3 on threes, 6 for 12 on twos, 11 for 14 on free throws. He finished with 26 points, 5 steals, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists versus no turnovers. 6'2" Malik Mack, 36 minutes as a starter, 2 for 5 on threes, 3 for 4 on twos, and 4 for 5 on free throws. He finished with 16 points, 7 assists versus 2 turnovers and 3 rebounds. 6'7" Caleb Williams, 35 minutes as a starter, 3 for 7 on threes, just 2 for 7 on twos. He did not attempt a free throw. He finished with 13 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists versus no turnovers. And 7'1" St. John's transfer Vince Iwuchukwu, he in 26 minutes off the bench went 4 for 6 from the field, all twos, and 6 for 8 on free throws. He finished with 14 points, 4 rebounds, and 1 assist versus 2 turnovers. The next Associated Press Top 25 poll for Division I men's basketball will come out on Monday afternoon. Might that poll include Georgetown? Are the Hoyas deserving of being a top 25 team? During the postgame press conference of Georgetown head coach Ed Cooley on Saturday afternoon, had this exchange.
For Coach, I know the goal is to be playing your best ball in March, but since you're one of 13 power conference teams in the nation right now who are 4-0, do you feel you should be ranked in the top 25 when the next poll comes out?
You know, again, the polls don't mean much to me. It's really someone's opinion, and I appreciate when they do vote for us, but that's not our goal. You know, if they feel we're worthy of it, I appreciate the time and energy that they put in and to put their ballot out there. I think we should get rid of preseason rankings. because they don't mean anything. If anything, it's a bias because it gives the energy to the people that are ranked with their fan base and their schools or whatever. I think the system should be changed to, similar to what the BCS does, wait 3 or 4 weeks and see where people, then you can get a look at them. Many teams have been ranked number 1 in the country and didn't make the tournament. So it's someone's opinion. If we're worthy to be ranked, great. Do we want to be ranked? Of course you do. But that's not our purpose. Our focus is on our next game, continue to get better, appreciate those who do, and kind of go from there. If you see our body of work and what we're doing and where we're trying to go, I think we're one of the best teams in America. I really do. Again, we have some flaws, but a lot of teams have flaws. I look at what we do well. We defend, we have fun, we share, we love one another, we respond to adversity, and we kind of move on. And if we can do that, we'll find ourselves continue to build and grow.
Well, I have to tell you, I like how Ed Cooley referred to the college football playoff rankings as the BCS. As in the Bowl Championship Series. The BCS went away more than a decade ago. The last season of the BCS was 2013. But Ed Cooley doing a nice job with these Hoyas. Next up for Georgetown, home to Wagner, Saturday at noon. I'll talk Virginia and Virginia Tech in moments, but thank you to all of you who have given this podcast a 5-star rating and who have written nice reviews of the podcast. You on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify can both rate the podcast and write reviews. 5-star ratings are very much appreciated. Positive reviews are very much appreciated. All right, more now on the college basketball weekend. Virginia in the 2025-2026 regular season improved to 4-0 overall with a 104-78 win over Marshall at John Paul Jones Arena in Charlottesville, Virginia on Saturday afternoon. How about this? UVA scored at least 100 points in a regular season game for the first time since a 164 home win over Marshall on December 31st, 2018. The Cavaliers never trailed. They won the first half 61-33. UVA's offense was great. The Cavs went 12 for 28 on threes and 21 for 35 on twos and had 18 assists versus 9 turnovers. And the point total of 104 could have been even higher. The Cavs went just 26 for 36 on free throws. 4 UVA players each scored at least 16 points. 6 UVA players each scored at least 8 points. Really standing out was 6'5" San Francisco transfer Malik Thomas. He had just 18 minutes, 53 seconds as a starter, had 18 points and 5 rebounds. He went 4 for 5 on threes and 2 for 4 on twos. He did not attempt a free throw. We joined the post-game press conference of UVA head coach Ryan Odom on Saturday afternoon. Had this exchange.
When you had it going at certain times like that 15-0 run, is that kind of what you envisioned when you were putting this team together in terms of having so many guys that can hurt you?
Yeah, there's no question about it. The depth is something that, we're going to have to lean on, this year. And we have a lot of different guys on the roster that could easily say, hey, I should be starting or this or that or the other. And we have to get past that as a group because it's not about one individual. It's about the team, and we've hammered that home with them since the day we recruited them, and the day that they stepped on campus together. And part of being able to play this style is having the depth, in order to do that. And we like our team and the collection of guys that we've put together.
And they so far look good. Also, UVA's defense in this game was very good. The Wahoos held Marshall to just 7 for 24 on threes and totaled 9 steals and generating 15 Marshall turnovers. The Hoos outscored Marshall in terms of points off turnovers, 25-13. Next up for Virginia, 2 games in the 2025 Greenbrier tip-off in West Virginia next weekend. A game against Northwestern Friday evening at approximately 5 and a game against Butler Sunday afternoon at 2. And Virginia Tech, in this regular season, improved to 4-0 overall with an 84-76 win over Charlotte at Castle Coliseum in Blacksburg, Virginia on Sunday afternoon. The Hokies never trailed. A 6'4" UNLV transfer, Jalen Bedford. He in 30 minutes as a starter went 4 for 8 on threes, 3 for 4 on twos, and 3 for 6 on free throws, and finished with 21 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 assists versus 2 turnovers. The 6'8" Toby Lowell, he in 37 minutes as a starter, went just 1 for 5 on threes, but also 4 for 7 on twos and 7 for 7 on free throws. He finished with 18 points, 15 rebounds, including 6 offensive boards and 3 blocks. Next up for Virginia Tech, home to Bryant, Wednesday night at 7. And that'll do it for you and me for now. Keep the feedback coming. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Tuesday's show, episode 1201. We'll have plenty for you on the Washington Commanders as we on Monday afternoon have head coach Dan Quinn's day after the game press conference. Also on Tuesday's show, we'll talk Washington Nationals and Washington Capitals. We have the introductory press conference for the Nats' new manager, Blake Butera, on Monday afternoon at 1:30. And the Caps are home to the Los Angeles Kings Monday night at 7. Have a great rest of your Monday, and I'll talk to you on Tuesday.
Just talking to the team after the game. It's tough. This one stings. Guys are definitely hurting, and in a lot of spaces they battled, and we had our opportunity to go win it. We didn't get that done.